I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be women pursuing men. Well, I've got an email from a woman, and what you're going to see is a woman is chasing a guy who it went sideways with 6 months ago after 5 months of dating when she wanted to get serious and have a relationship. And you can see women encounter the same kinds of problems when they over pursue that guys do and are guilty of doing the same things, which is projecting their dating fantasy onto the other person and ignoring the reality of the situation. So I got a quote that I wrote. We're going to go through that. We're going to jump right into her email. And the quote says, "Strong romantic emotions and feelings often cloud our judgment and ability to see reality for what it is. This causes us to make excuses for the other person's imperfections and failure to live up to our fantasy of what we want them to be in our lives. The more we get burned by other people who do not live up to our expectations, the less we should be inclined to repeat the same mistakes in the future. Remember, we tend to do more to avoid pain than we'll do to gain pleasure. When you get burned enough, it creates such a strong negative emotional anchor that we naturally eventually start to realize, you know what, it's probably not a good idea to continually get involved with people that have the same problems, the same things that I'm seeing over and over. If you are constantly attracting the same kind of people in relationships that never live up to your expectations, obviously either your approach is flawed or you are constantly ignoring reality. And if you've read my book, you have learned that I have been guilty of both. And I learned the hard way. And the idea is to learn from what I've been through so you can speed up your success and not have to go through that bullshit. But I'm sure there's people, I know for the fact there's people watching this, they're going to do it anyways because I hear it all the time in my phone sessions with people. The universe will keep sending us the same kind of people and circumstances to exploit our flaws and weaknesses so we can overcome them and reach our full potential. A person's actions are the greatest indicator of how they will treat us in the future. Just like Gerald Celente always says, the Trends Research Institute, current events form future trends. You got to see reality as it is, because you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. So let's go through her email. She says, "Hi, Coach. I respect your work and I've read your book. Does the same advice you give for men approaching women go for women approaching men when interested in meeting a new guy?" Well, as far as women go, the idea is it's absolutely acceptable to let them know that you're interested, but it's also important, instead of projecting your interest onto them, to see what they do with that. Because if you're a woman and you've read my book, you can tell the behaviors that a guy that's got his shit together will exhibit. And when you see a guy not exhibiting those behaviors, you know really you should be moving on, which in this particular case, you should have moved on from this guy. So you're kind of ignoring reality, and that's why you're suffering, because you want reality to be other than it is. This guy has some obvious flaws, and you're ignoring that because you're focused on what you want, and you're ignoring the fact that it's just impossible for him to give you that. Would you consider writing a book for us ladies? Maybe someday, but I doubt it. I don't really have any interest in that. I'm working on my next book, and it's strictly going to be a self-help related type of book, self-help, self-reliance type book for men and women. I've been divorced for 8 years, and I have had 2 significant relationships since then. I do very well until I start asking a guy if he considers me his girlfriend. I'm in shape, I make good money, and I take care of my appearance. The problem is, the 2 men involved refuse to acknowledge me as a girlfriend. The latest man travels 4 days out of the week for business. He's divorced now, and divorced 2 years from a 28-year marriage that he ended after he said that he suffered years waiting for his sons to grow up, to divorce his wife, who he claims wouldn't cook, clean, cheated on him, and she never worked, and now she gets alimony and she lives in a house they shared until 8 years expire. That's why it's really fucking important to date people that are on your level, socioeconomic level. Because if you're a guy, multimillionaire, and you're dating a girl who's a titty dancer, if you will, and has a drug problem, and you marry her and you have kids, you're going to be, in most states, you're going to end up paying alimony and child support. If you look at somebody like, say, a Tom Brady and a Giselle, Tom's a multimillionaire, one of the most successful, if not the most successful NFL quarterback to ever play the game. And his wife is one of the most successful, richest supermodels in the world. Similar goals, similar values, shared experiences. And if things were ever to go sideways, it's not like he's going to be supporting her the rest of his life or vice versa. What you want is an equal, a true teammate. And it's common sense, but remember, human beings buy things and we make our decisions based upon emotions, and then we use logic and reason to justify our purchase. I see that a lot, especially guys with money, is they date women that are really cute, really attractive, but they don't really bring anything to the table financially from a goals and a financial value perspective. And then they wonder why they end up paying through the nose with alimony and child support. When I met him, he noticed me twice. Once he left his phone number for me at a business we both frequent, and a second time he saw me out salsa dancing with another date, but didn't realize it was me until our first date. Well, men who have their shit together are direct, decisive, and they get right to the point. So if you're a woman watching this, it's important to see what the guy does. Does he just stare at you and you can tell he's kind of sheepish to approach and it takes him 2 or 3 times encountering you before he works up the courage? Pay attention to those things. It communicates a lot about his confidence and self-esteem. He seemed uncomfortable about seeing me with another guy and asked what was up with that situation after we danced our first dance, and he looked at me and said, "So I guess you won't need to dance with that other guy anymore." I told him no, and I was very, very happy to be with him, and I broke the dating relationship off with the other guy. Well, if a guy says something like that to you, are you saying you want to be exclusive and you want to be boyfriend, girlfriend? What do you mean by that? Whether you're a man or a woman, the other person says that, you want to ask that question instead of making assumptions, which I think in this particular case, she's making some assumptions. He also pressed very hard for sex with me. He would go on about how beautiful I was and how hot my body was, and he was looking forward to our bodies coming together. He texted me that he didn't want a relationship, but that if he did get into one, his woman would be smoking hot. At first, I didn't know him very well, and I told him I preferred intimacy and the safety of a relationship. He texted, "Then let's just see where the road takes us." That's a good answer. That's what I would teach guys to say. That's why it's so important to look at what people do, not what they say. After our 4th date, I explained to him that I was not interested in hooking up. I wanted to be intimate with a man who cared about me and saw potential. He said that he cared and that I was the first woman that he invited to his apartment other than his family and his dance partner. Sex that night was hot, and we continued for months, dining, dancing, cooking, and spending days together. No fights. So far, so good. After dating 5 months, I told him that I wanted to be his woman after he mentioned our level. I felt safe asking this because twice he said, "I love you," in a playful way. We dated 2 more weeks, then he broke up with me over lunch, saying that he would never ever be ready for that level of a relationship with me. Well, that's when you tell him, "Give me a call if you ever change your mind. Sorry you feel that way, but I'm not going to sit around and wait on you because I'm looking for something real." We sat at a local restaurant while he texted his ex-wife saying they were planning funeral arrangements for her dead brother. He said his ex was asking him if he was happy, and he said he told her no. He was angry. I left blindsided and heartbroken. Well, you want a guy that's happy. The idea is if somebody's ready, willing, able, and open to a relationship. I felt for the second time like a fuck rag, only to be tossed in the garbage after I was no longer needed. Well, what you really did is you projected your fantasy onto this guy. I mean, the guy was almost 3 decades with this one woman. He's really only been single for about a year, and you were the first woman that he dated. So it's really unrealistic to think somebody that's been with someone that long is going to be ready for a serious relationship. especially when you see these little things that that are communicating or showing weakness. Because you can tell by his responses that he's telling you what you want to hear in order to get in your pants. And let's face it, guys do that. He called me perfect. I don't get it. That's why you look at what people do, not what they say. You bought the... See, you were driven by your emotions and you were really into this guy, and you use logic and reason to take all of his bullshit answers instead of looking at his actions. Because his actions and his words don't match up. My heart is broken again, and I tried no contact. Well, no contact means you're never going to speak again unless you hear from the other person. That means that's it. That means they pushed you too far and you've walked and you ain't looking back. The strongest negotiating position is being able to walk away and mean it. And so it's like going to a car dealership and then walking out and saying, hey, well, give me a call if you can meet the price that I'm looking for, or the monthly payment, or the interest rate that I want. You don't call them a day or two later and go, hey, are you willing to give me the payment or the interest rate I want or the price? That's a weak position. So I texted him a thoughtful text asking him if he'd like to just dance. He texted me that he'd love to when he wasn't so busy traveling, but after 6 months he hasn't asked me to dance. Is there anything I can do? If you're looking for a relationship, not going to happen with this dude. And you deep down, I think you probably know that by now. I really want him back. It's not that you want him back. You want the fantasy of who you thought he was and who you wanted to be. That's why it's so important to focus on your outcome. Focus on finding somebody and interacting with somebody who shares the same goals and values. This guy revealed a bunch of things in the beginning that you should have been like, hey, it's been great. Well, give me a call when you get your stuff together, and then move on down the road. So the takeaway from this is you got to see reality as it is, because whether you're a man or a woman, when you want reality to be other than it is, you're going to suffer. And you can ignore reality, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. So if you'd like to get my help personally, maybe you're in a similar situation, you're kind of unsure, and you want me to hear you out and give you my opinion, I'm happy to do that. And you can go to my website, click the products tab, and book a phone coaching session with yours truly. And I will talk to you soon.